Whichever time zone you are in, it will be in 15 minutes.
Checking my video. Do you see me? Great, okay. Welcome, Hannes. We'll just wait for our other speakers to join us.
Thank you, and
Hello, everyone. Can we just do a mic check? I see Haynes, you online, so maybe a mic and video check. Haynes?
He might have just left the seat, but I think we are waiting for 3 other teams of speakers.
One for these 3, right? We need to hear French recording.
Okay.
I did hear and see Hannes just now.
Okay,
So
okay. Invo is in the other room.
Like which room? See, I was
Next
thinking-
door.
Next door?
Where are you, Invo?
I'm here, MR4.
MR4.
See, I went all the way.
Yep, just heard you knock.
Okay, we're still waiting for the presenters. I hope they will arrive shortly. Ines, thank you. Can we just do a mic check, please?
Of course you can. I hope that's all good.
Yes, great, thank you. And we're just waiting for the other panelists. Okay, I see a hand up. Oh, I see Sancho, like you are an attendee, I see.
Cool.
So you somehow need to move over, yeah, over to speaker.
Whatever, so she'll reconnect.
Okay, great. Great, we can see you. We promoted you to a panelist. We're still waiting for others to join. Okay. I can see. we're waiting for Mr. Baseng and Innocent, and I think and August. Okay, so we are hearing that our panelists will shortly join.
Can I rejoin if you don't mind? Because somehow I cannot change my background with the web version. So I would like to rejoin and use the Zoom application. I will,
Great, thank you.
yeah, thank you.
And we have Innocent on the line, as well as August. I think we're just waiting for Dr. Baseng.
Hello, good morning, colleagues.
Good morning,
Hi.
good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I think we're still waiting for August.
Actually, I'm here.
Oh, okay, there you are. Great, welcome.
I think it's Dr.
Sure.
Baseng from Indonesia we're waiting on.
Yes, we're telling him if he joins, we will move him over to the panelist.
Yes, I've just sent a chat to Paul, who's the focal point from Indonesia, from
Yes.
JJ.
Great. We will start in a few minutes, so.
Just as a mic test and also to deliver to Innocent. Innocent, I'm going to share my screen. So whenever I hand over to you, you can just tell me like next slide, next slide.
Sure, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, Paul is helping Dr. Baseng. He's in the lobby. So
Via link.
I think we're gonna start the session.
And
So-
for those of you, sorry, Mona, for those of you who are not speaking, maybe stop your video and mute yourself and then open them once it's your time to speak.
Great. Thank you so much. So welcome everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. We warmly welcome you to our session on knowledge sharing as part of the Global Green Growth Week Conference 2022. Before we start our session, I would like to play a video from His Excellency Ban Ki-moon, who's the President and Chair of GGGI's Council and Assembly. He will be making the welcoming remark to all of us.
Excellencies, distinguished participants and guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome all of you to this year's Global Green Growth Week, organized by the Global Green Growth Institute. Your participation is evidence that we, the global community, demand climate action, and I want to thank you for doing your part to drive and empower green growth. The climate crisis is perhaps the defining crisis of our times. Every year, we can read and hear more and more about the devastating impacts of extreme weather systems, and this year is proving to be one of the worst years yet, with the record floods, the droughts, and the heat waves, all of which lead to displacements from homes, food crises, and wildfires that disrupt and destroy the lives of millions. We are destroying our hope for a better future, and we need to work together to save our planet. I'm pleased to know that so many of you are coming together to exchange ideas, solutions, and best practices on how to advance the implementation of the Paris Climate Change Agreement, the framework which I helped establish during my time as the Secretary General of the United Nations. I'm especially pleased to know that many of you are joining from all corners of the world, including Africa, Asia, Latin America, the Middle East, and the Pacific, and many of the solutions to be discussed are coming from women and indigenous communities who are most affected by climate change. I encourage you to take full advantage of Global Green Growth Week and engage with one another as green growth champions and practitioners. The climate crisis will require collaboration and collective action from each and every one of us, because climate change knows no borders, and climate change does not discriminate based on race or social class. We can transform our economies and societies and leave a better future, a sustainable and inclusive future, only if we work together. The challenges will be difficult and there are no shortcuts, but if we work together urgently, I think we can do it. As I have said before, there is no plan B because there is no planet B either. I hope you will join me to make the world a better place for future generations. I wish you very fruitful and successful events during Global Green Growth Week. Thank you.
Thank you. All of us partaking in this session recognize that enhancing knowledge sharing, capacity building worldwide will help experts and institutions promote inclusive green economic policies, practices, and actions at the local, national, regional, and global levels. In this session, we will explore how knowledge plays a role as a key enabler for a green transformation, environmentally sustainable and socially inclusive, through three drivers of change: policymakers, financial sector, and the business sector. Our panelists will explore various modalities to increase community awareness and strengthen the capacity of different points of views, foster intergenerational understanding, and support collective action among different groups in society critical for behavioral shifts from government level to communal to household level. We have 4 presentations today. Each of our presenters will have about 10 minutes to deliver their presentation. After each presentation, we will have quick clarification questions before we move to the next presentation. After we concluded all 4 presentations, we will open up for question and answer session. Please do put your hands up and do put your questions in the question channel, and hopefully we will receive them and will address them as we go along. So without much more ado, I'm gonna first ask Dr. Bassin, who is here with us today. He's the deputy of the Competency Department Implementation, National Institute for Public Administration, NIPA of Indonesia, to share his presentation. Just before you share your presentation, a little bit about Dr. Bassin. He obtained his doctorate in public administration in 2013 from the University of Indonesia. And he has been a key, he played actually an instrumental role in the process of designing the national pre-service training and leadership training, and participated in designing the current innovation laboratory model. So without much further ado, Dr. Bassin, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mona. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am very glad this evening to share my experiences in Indonesia in designing global green growth training in Indonesia. This evening, I would like to talk about my experiences, along with my college experiences in designing this green growth training. Because we have a very limited time, let me share my screen, my PowerPoint. I hope everybody can see my PowerPoint. This evening, I would like to share my experiences in National Institute of Public Administration in Indonesia in developing Indonesian first green growth training. I would like to divide my presentation into 2 sessions. The first one, I would talk about the background. Why do we have this green growth training in Indonesia? And the second one, I would like to talk about the milestone we went through in having this green growth training. Let me start with the first one, the background. As we all know that Indonesia commit to follow up the Paris Agreement, and one form of it is to equip the government officers with competency in green growth. apart from this, Indonesia, of course, also pay much attention on green growth, because as one of developing countries, Indonesia also has a quite ambitious economic program. In the planning, Indonesia commits and strive to have economic growth about 5.5% until 2045, which is 100 years or a century after Indonesia independence. We believe that we have to be careful in realizing this economic growth, because if we are not very careful, we may have impact on environment and also on social aspect of Indonesian people. Therefore, as I work in National Institute of Public Administration, which is responsible to equip government officers in green growth competence. So the first things that we would like to have is formal, a kind of legal green training curriculum, which is can be applied for all civil servants in Indonesia. At the moment, per June 13, 2022, we have about 4.3 million government officers. These 4.3 million, there are some top managers, middle managers, and also implementers. So we are aiming at equipping them all with green growth training, with green growth competence. So in order to do so, it is very important for my institution, National Institute of Public Administration, to have a kind of formal training, a mandatory training for all of government officers. In order to have that, and then we have a long story behind this curriculum, this training program. We started in 2014, and now we are in the phase of implementing the training program. We have already produced some alumni, some participants, equipping them with green growth competence. We have this formally, we have this training program in 2019 with the issue of government means NIPA regulation number 704 in 2019. So we have already have these training programs. Before that, it was a long story to have this training, because as you may know that not many government officers realize the importance of green growth training. So it took us a very long time, starting from 2014, to convince everyone, every decision makers in Indonesia. Fortunately, we have a competent partner which is Global Green Growth Institute Indonesia, assisted us from the very beginning. We did a lot of discussion, visiting some government offices, and then many people in the government offices realized the importance of green growth training. And starting from that, 2015, 2016, and 2017, and then we together with Green Growth Institute in Indonesia, we were able to mobilize many highly ranking officers from other departments, and together we sit together and we finally designed a formal curriculum for government officers in Indonesia, starting from top manager, middle manager, and lower manager. So basically, we have we managed to have this program, Green Growth Training, in 2019, and starting from that, starting from 2019, and then we did a lot of activities in order to enhance these training programs. We did a lot of promotion, and we even designed a special logo for this training, green growth training. And then after that, we have to prepare how to implement this curriculum. So we did a lot of preparation, like training of trainers. Of course, we have to provide competent trainers. And apart from that, we also wrote some modules, teaching materials, even videos. And during the pandemic era in 2019, 2020, we worked together with the learning management system owned by National Institute of Public Administration. So all these courses are then put in the learning management system. Starting from 2019, then we have many green growth training programs. We spread this training program through the provinces, and until now we roll out many green growth training program from provinces to provinces. And in the future, we believe that more and more government officers will be trained in improving their competence in green growth, in green growth competence. So this is what we have so far. We are in the process of enhancing this training program, and we hope that in the future more and more people, government officers especially, are well accommodated in this green growth training programs. So Mona, I think that's all I can say for this evening. I hope we still have more time to do some question and answers. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Baseng, and thank you for the excellent presentation. I was particularly intrigued by all the steps it actually took to get people to consider the trainings and consider that building capacities in green growth was a must. So, and I don't see any clarification questions just yet. So there are some questions, but we'll leave them for the end. So I'm now gonna move to our next presenter, who is Mr. Oguz Ergin, who's the project manager for Habitat Derneği. His topic is techno-climate innovations to promote environmental awareness. And Mr. Ergin has been quite active in many national and international activities in the field of climate and environment, and held many trainings on climate crisis and sixth extinction, ecological literacy, biodiversity, and sustainable development, just to name a few. I'm now gonna give you the floor. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Hi everyone. My name is Oğuz. I'm from Turkey. I'm working as a project manager in Habitat Derneği. Today, I will mention about some our projects. Habitat Association is a non-governmental organization in Turkey. It was founded in 1997, and Young Habitat volunteers from 1997 on have been working on all disadvantaged groups in all provinces of Turkey with no discrimination of religion, language, race, gender, or sexual orientation. Habitat has been supporting all social groups in building their capacities, providing them with the necessities of time, access to opportunities, and participating in the decision-making process, raising social awareness and environmental sensitivities. So what we do actually, we are organizing some projects and events in 3 different working areas. These are digital transformation, entrepreneurship, and inclusive and sustainable growth. These are our main 3 programs. For the green growth, we are doing some projects and events, as you can see in my presentation. With the Green Planet project, we provide education to children on sustainability. We are organizing some hackathons to develop technology-oriented solutions to environmental and climate crisis problems. The topics and groups of hackathons may vary, but we are trying to address environmental problems in all of them. There are too many people in Turkey who have established green business as a result of such competitions. And also, we are working with SMEs in entrepreneurship program. In this program, we are doing ideathons on inclusivity and sustainability, podcasts, and sustainability workshops with SMEs. And we are doing some mentorship programs for SMEs working in the field of sustainability and green transformation. Also, with the Youth Business International, we developed the Green and Social Entrepreneurship Toolkit. This toolkit is important in Turkey, actually, for SMEs. In our process, it's important to find the right partners in order to create applicable projects. We care about benefiting from project partners, not just financially, but also in terms of information. Project partners are also part of the implementation process. For example, if we are working with a software company, company employees take part as mentors in ideathons or hackathons. We also invite such successful entrepreneurs to our projects as a mentor. This enables us to come up with more viable projects. In all this process, we may experience some problems. First one is access to technology. Not everyone in Turkey has equal access to technology. In our projects or programs, we provide sufficient support to eliminate it. However, most of the time, it's not enough for people to access technology only at the time of the program. To solve this, we are trying to raise small funds by finding sponsors. And second one is finding funds for startups. Just making a prototype to bring an idea to life can require a significant amount of money. Again, we are trying to solve this with accelerator programs. Some project partners or sponsors can also support in this process. I'm not sure the last one is always a problem, but sometimes local solutions can be much more effective. But the climate crisis is a global problem. Therefore, small technical solutions can remain in local. This is my presentation. Thanks for listening. These are our social medias. You can reach us if you want. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that presentation. And I'm pretty sure once we move to the question and answer session, lots of questions will be directed to you regarding how do you overcome those challenges, especially when you're looking at very specific local solutions and trying to find resources to elevate them or go deeper even with those solutions. I'm gonna now call on our third presentation presenters, who will be Sancho and Innocent Ona. They will be presenting on financing nature, policy and development. And as I said, it will be delivered by Sancho, who's the country engagement coordinator at the Green Growth Knowledge Platform, and Innocent Ona, who is the Chief Natural Resource Officer at the African Development Bank. And just a little bit about both of them. Ms. San, before she joined GGKP, she actually worked as the climate change and green growth specialist at UNDP Rwanda office, where she supported the government in monitoring and reporting on its environmental policy and the national green growth strategy. And Dr. Innocent Ona is the sustainability expert with special interest in the intersection between public policy, governance, and natural resources, climate change, and green growth. He currently works for the African Development Bank as the Chief Natural Resource Officer, leading the bank's work on natural capital in African development finance, governing natural resources outflows for enhanced economic resilience in fragile and transitional countries, and that for climate nature swap study in a number of African countries. So I'm now opening the floor to you to please make your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mona. Let me first share my screen. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It is my great pleasure and honor to make this presentation together with my colleague, Dr. Innocent Ona. I will first start off the first half of the presentation to talk about what GGKP Green Growth Knowledge Partnership has done to work on financing for nature in the past 5 years. And then I will hand over to Dr. Innocent Ona to talk more about our collaboration on nature capital for African development finance. So as you may know or may not know, GGKP, Green Growth Knowledge Partnership, is a partnership established back in 2014, starting from focusing on green growth policymakers and practitioners. And it was established by 4 founding members, including GGGI and also OECD, UN Environment Program, and the World Bank. And from 2019, it's expanded and to embrace 2 other communities, such as finance communities and also business sectors. So we launched the 2 sister platforms, Green Finance Platform and Green Industry Platform. And I hope my colleague Hannes will present more about the Green Industry Platform after this presentation. So that what we do 4 different activities around knowledge, green growth knowledge. The first one is knowledge generation and sharing and management. And now since 2020, we also step into one step further on knowledge application based on what we generated in terms of knowledge. So just to give you a very quick figures on what we've done so far, if you go into especially the Green Policy Platform, there are over 11,000 knowledge stored, and we do have over 90 partners all over the world. We do also share a lot of news articles around the different aspects of green growth from GGKP as well as the knowledge partners. And we do also share a lot of interesting blogs from green growth experts, policymakers, as well as practitioners. And of course, we do have our own webinars really focusing on different aspects of green growth. And within this Green Policy Platform, especially focusing on the knowledge generation side, we actually convened a different expert working group to mainly identify knowledge gaps in different fields under green growth area. For example, it was previously we looked into like a low inclusiveness, behavior change, sustainable infrastructure, trade, and metrics and indicators. And now, since 2020, we focused more on natural capital and its application of knowledge on the ground. And as I already mentioned, this past working groups, we hosted a cumulative 10 expert working groups, but currently the focus is the natural capital expert group. And the goal of this expert group is to better integrate nature and biodiversity into national green growth planning with this 3 different activities. Just to mention what natural capital is, like many of you heard about natural resources, but natural capital actually embraced that concept of natural resources, conventional resources as like oil, gas, mineral, but also other parts of nature such as air, water, soils, forest, and also the ecosystem that generate and benefits to human beings, such as ecosystem services. So we identified 4 different knowledge gap areas and tried to identify those and bridge the gap, such as natural capital data, which was addressed by the first working paper, and then natural capital policy covered by the next 2. And metrics covered by the 3rd and 4th and 5th working papers. And also we continue applying this methodology on natural capital gap in SDGs into 10 countries and expanded to 20 countries. And now we're actually working on expand that methodology into 40 countries to cover over 80% of the global GDP. To identify what is the natural capital gaps in achieving nature-related SDG targets. So these are the expert group members who were very active back in 2017 until 2020. And then they really tried to identify the natural capital knowledge gap and try to bridge the gap by producing those working papers that I already shared with you. And in addition to that, we have done a very active knowledge sharing on natural capital. We stored over 550 research products around natural capital under the theme page called Natural Capital on the Green Policy platform, and also over 850 knowledge products in total. And also we organized 8 different webinars, more than 8 webinars, specifically focusing on natural capital for green growth. And in addition to this natural capital expert group, of course, it was advised and supported by the expert group. One area that we really focused was the institutional mainstreaming of natural capital. For example, how the world leading institutions can integrate and embrace the concept of natural capital and integrate that concept into their daily operation. So first, we targeted OECD, working closely on this OECD Green Growth Policy review of Indonesia back in 2019. There's a dedicated chapter around natural capital under this review. And with GGGI, we collaborated to generate this 3 returns framework. 3 returns means once a financial investment is done in a landscape or landscape level, and what are the returns, not only the financial returns, but also natural capital returns and social human capital returns. So the first piece actually defined the methodology and how it can be done. And then that was applied in 3 districts in Myanmar on mangrove forest restoration project. And that actually further expand into the broader area in Myanmar. And also recently this was applied in one of the projects in Uzbekistan. And in addition to that, in collaboration with AFDB, we tried to mainstream natural capital at the institutional level at AFDB in their operation, given that AFDB many operations are really dealing with infrastructure finance. So we try to integrate natural capital in the infrastructure finance, and for that, with the aim to lay foundation of mainstreaming natural capital and infrastructure finance, specifically focusing on African countries. And now I would like to hand over to my colleague Innocent to cover what was done and what we are doing, and how that has been integrated and embraced by AFGB. I would like to hand over to Innocent.
Thank you very much, Son, for the wonderful introductions. Good afternoon and good morning, everywhere you are. So the AFDB has a unique collaboration with the Green Growth Knowledge Platform through the Natural Capital for Africa Development Program, which is a joint initiative between the African Development Bank and GGKP, aimed at mainstreaming natural capital approaches in African development finance. The program's implementation is led by WWF, and it's oversight with an oversight joint implementation committee, which includes GIZ, UNEP, MAVA Foundation, IISD, and Economics for Nature. So basically, this program is focused on, first of all, mainstreaming natural capital in AFDB infrastructure finance, developing a business case for natural capital among development finance institutions, integrating natural capital in African sovereign credit ratings. In this case, we're looking at nature-based green recovery, and building capacity for natural capital approaches. Next slide. So basically, the program is working through 4 strategic pillars. The first pillar is focused on applying natural capital approaches for AFDB projects. And then we have some case studies in Mozambique and Tanzania. Under pillar 1 as well, we try to carry out an analysis of MDB project portfolio, including the AFDB projects on nature-based solutions in sub-Saharan Africa. Work on this is currently going on with strong support from the World Resource Institute. Under pillar 2, we designed a common vision for mainstreaming nature-based solutions for the MDB Joint Nature Statement. Under Pillar 2 as well, we have a technical working group on development finance. Under Pillar 3 of the program, we have the natural capital and sovereign credit ratings, and also the nature-based green recovery in Africa. All of these programs are all integrated in a way that dovetails from Pillar 1 to Pillar 2 and to Pillar 3. And then we are ending up with a Pillar 4, which will develop training modules and rollout sessions for specific Africa development financial institutions, Africa public sector, private sector, as well as internally by the African Development Bank. And we are doing this through the Natural Capital Academy in future. Next slide. So the NC4ADF within the bank, it sits in the African Natural Resources Management and Investment Center, which is a specialized department of the African Development Bank, led by Dr. Vanessa Ushi as the acting director. So basically, the center was created in 2013, mandated to assist African countries in maximizing development outcomes derived from natural resources. Through carefully selected aspects of natural resource management, policy formulation, implementation, to enable them extract greater social and economic value from their development. And moving forward, the center is looking towards supporting nature positive investment for a just transition that Africa needs right now. Next slide. So the NC4ADF is benefiting immensely from this partnership with GGKP through the center's current and future work. Our future work is being transformed into a new policy or a new strategy called the Africa Natural Resource Management and Investment Strategy 2023 to 2027, which hopefully will come live by end of this year. This strategy is focused on 3 key pillars: natural resource governance, valuing natural capital, and investment facilitation. Now, the strategic thinking around this new strategy was well informed by some of the successes that we've learned from the NC4ADF program. And then we are also ensuring that we are integrating natural capital into EFDB's operations by assisting member countries with knowledge and capacity building, technical expertise, advocacy, and policy advice. So in summary, the bank is benefiting greatly from the NC4ADF program with the kind support of GGKP and partners. And now looking forward to continuing this process and integrating both internally within the bank and with external partnerships to ensure that at the end of the day, we are achieving indeed a global green growth trajectory for African countries. Next slide, and thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ona and Son, for those excellent points that you brought out. It's again very intriguing to hear of how do we move from a gap analysis to an accelerated specific green growth action. And I'm pretty sure we will have lots of questions to both of you. I have a really easy task today because everybody's really being within their time frame. We have one more presentation, which will be delivered by Hannes McNulty from the Green Industry, who's the Green Industry Platform Manager. He will be talking to us about IGO, connecting the dots to upscale resource efficiency. And just a little bit about Hannes. His specific area of expertise is in resource efficiency and industrial decarbonization, with a particular focus on bridging the communication gaps between related public and private sector stakeholders. So please make your presentation.
Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be here today. So bear with me just 1 second while I share my screen, and we can jump straight away into the IGO presentation. So I'm coming from the Green Industry Platform. Sun has been very good to give you the initial introduction to GGKP and the kind of work we do. So I'm coming now in particular from the industry side and how we work to support, we'll say, the smaller companies like SMEs within the industry sector. Now, what I want to do is talk about a specific initiative, which is the IGO initiative, which we have implemented to support the work of the Green Industry Platform. And as the title says here, it's about how we connect the dots to upscale resource efficiency. And very importantly, when it comes to industry and focusing on the SMEs, we don't actually talk about green growth. We talk about resource efficiency to give it a more practical sense. Now, one of the issues with getting SMEs to become more resource efficient is that while resource efficiency is not a difficult concept, it is very, very complicated to implement in reality. One, because it requires an SME to look at their entire range of operations, to look at all the different ways they use energy, water, the way they manage their waste, etc. And of course, it's not just that, it's also how to engage with the SME to even be able to talk to them about resource efficiency. So what IGO aims to, let's say, do is look at two kind of key challenges. One is how we can connect with a large number of SMEs, and there are a lot of SMEs in each individual country. And then if we're able to connect with them, engage with them, and convince them about the benefits of resource efficiency, how we can then support each one of them according to their individual and specific needs. So what we have here with the IGO initiative is a number of steps that we undertake to bring together all the different type of knowledge that's useful to SMEs, to engage with them, and to have them actually make use of all the knowledge we bring together. So how does it really work? Well, the first thing we do within IGO is we, country by country, bring together all the different types of resource efficiency knowledge and support services. Now, for us, what's important here is that we don't just collect technical guides or case studies, but that we also collect information on what training is available to SMEs in a given country, what financing solutions are available, what technical assistance is available. So really, it's about anything that can help an SME become more resource efficient. We try to collect information on and bring together in what we call the SME Support Center. It's a database, but very comprehensive, covering all the different topics of resource efficiency. Now, because a database is only so useful for an SME, they first of all have to know it's there and then figure out what in the database is relevant to them. We have actually developed a tool called the IGO Assistant, which aims to, we'll say, facilitate access to all of this information we bring together. How can we help an SME make best use of all of that existing information? Well, the IGO Assistant does two things. One, it does a very quick self-assessment. That means it offers a self-assessment to an SME so that they can understand what their resource efficiency status is. And based on that status, it directs them to the most relevant resource efficiency knowledge or support service according to their, let's say, location, their size, their sector, and of course, their resource efficiency status. Now, this is all about building awareness of what's already out there and matching it to individual SME needs. Next year, we will be going a step further and introducing a tool which will support SMEs during the implementation of a resource efficiency project. So they know about resource efficiency, they want to do something, they're ready to implement. How can they be accompanied through their project? And for that, we will be introducing the implementation manager, which is about really performance tracking, reporting, but also accompanying an SME during their project. Now, behind all of these, we'll call them tools. We have the IGO network, because tools are useless unless we can get them to the target audience, which are the SMEs. And our IGO network is really our portal to the SMEs. This is where we build up a network within each individual country and on a regional level. And the network members are made up of anything from an NGO to a development organization to a business association, anybody that really engages and works with SMEs. So through this network, we then bring our tools to the individual SMEs. And this network is also extremely important because through the network, we're also able to collect all of the existing knowledge and support services around resource efficiency, and of course, promote them. So we help those organizations that are within this IGO network to make better use of what they already offer. Of course, it then helps these organizations that are working with the SMEs to share experience with each other and to build collaborations, and of course, access external expertise on an international level if need be. Through that type of collaboration, they probably, well, we would aim to be able to help them access better funding opportunities. And once they're able to access better funding opportunities, we're able to support them in developing new resource efficiency services or knowledge, or even simply just adapt existing ones from other countries to their country. Now, this network aims to achieve all of this and give us access to SMEs with our tools. And we facilitate, we'll say, the management of this network through the Green Forum. This is a very important tool for us, very similar to LinkedIn, honestly, just a bit better than LinkedIn. And this is really a great way for us to engage with all of the different members in this IGO network. What does that mean? IGO is really about, well, here I call it a knowledge and data loop. Why? Because one, it helps SMEs really just access what they need to improve their business, which is becoming more resource efficient, but most importantly, what they need to become more resource efficient according to their circumstances. It helps supporting organizations, those organizations that work with SMEs, to be able to apply what they already offer to SMEs in a better way, but also to improve their services. It helps the donors that support these supporting organizations understand where to direct their funds based on the impacts and the needs of the individual SMEs. It, of course, also very importantly helps the business associations offer a better service to SMEs. They can help them really prepare themselves for all different types of future, I won't say crises all the time, but future situations that may come up and how to become more sustainable. Supply chain leaders, these are the larger companies that have a supply chain and where they have SMEs as suppliers. They have a lot of difficulty in connecting with their suppliers and helping them to become more resource efficient or even just sustainable. What IGO does, it also works with these to be able to improve their engagement with the supply chain and to be able to actually procure in a supportive way. And at the very end, of course, it helps financial institutions, because financial institutions are still not well geared to supporting SMEs. But by bringing all of this information together, all of the different actors, we're also able to help financial institutions fund the SMEs to invest in resource efficiency projects. So with that, I conclude my rather brief and hopefully understandable presentation, and just leave you with those final words that IGO is really about connecting the dots. It's about making better use of the knowledge that we already have, and also to understand where are the gaps in the, let's say, existing range of knowledge and how we can fill those gaps. A few links there for you to go to. Maybe a key one here is the igosolution.org, which is this IGO assistant tool, which I invite you all to have a look at and let your SME networks know about. So Mona, many thanks, and back to you.
Thank you so much for those detailed points of like, how does it actually work? I think you had a lot of really important parts there, and what was still ringing in my head is resource efficiency is not difficult, just complicated. And I think you made it quite easy in the presentation of how it really works. We have lots of questions coming in. Let's start with the first one. And please, if you have questions, do put them in the chat. Maybe at this point, I invite all the presenters to turn back their cameras so we can see them. And I'll go with the first question that came in was regarding the green growth trainings that are happening in Indonesia. Dr. Basang, if you could talk is it open to the public and development organization? And is there any training specific on integrating green growth in agri-food systems?
Thank you very much. Our green growth training in Indonesia is designed for civil servants only. So they are not for public and not also for non-government organization. But if the public would like to improve the competence on green growth, of course they can propose the intention. They can send a proposal to our institution, and then we can do something to cater their needs. As for the integration of green growth with agri-food systems, of course, in the training program, we accommodate civil servants from agricultural departments. So participants from agricultural departments can tailor the content of this green growth training to cater their need, including the food system. Not only the food system, all sectors, in the governments, they can tailor their need to green growth field. I think that's all I can say to this question. Mona, back to you.
Thank you. The next question is for August. It's for you, of how do you overcome the funding issues for your project? And I think maybe some others can also talk to this, because I'm pretty sure it's not just an issue for you, but please go ahead.
We are working with global companies like Facebook, Vodafone, Coca-Cola, Netflix, and also we are working with UN agents like UNDP, UNHCR, UN Women, and UNICEF. Also, we are doing some projects with local municipalities and ministries. This is how we get funding, actually.
Would others like to talk to? I think the person asking these questions looking at how do you overcome those challenges that we all face, I think, in the... Hines, I see you unmuting, so do you want to take it? Yeah, please.
I think we all have a challenge in getting the funding for these projects. And unfortunately, one of the biggest challenges is that we compete very often with each other for the same funding. And I think for us, I know that one of the key things is, rather than competing with other organizations for the same funding, is how we can collaborate with them on a project that goes for this particular funding. At the end of the day, together we're stronger. And as a result, let's take that one source of funding and have it fund a project, a collaborative project, rather than a competing projects. And this is the approach we're aiming to take, and we're already taking. And I would really, in this very competitive world of donor funding, I would highly recommend a collaborative approach with our donors rather than a competitive approach.
I see, Sun, you shaking your head as well.
Yes, Hannes already covered so much about what I actually wanted to share. Like a partnership is really important. Our partnership that we just presented with AFDB, African Development Bank, as well as the Worldwide Fund for Nature, WWF. I think just GGKP working on like talking about natural capital, we could make much more stronger voice together with AFDB and WWF. And at the same time, to make this partnership, I think one thing that we need to really work almost a daily basis is knowledge sharing, because we need to share knowledge with others and talk with them, communicate to them what we are doing, what has been challenging, what kind of idea we have to overcome these challenges. So in addition to partnership, I think communication directly with the partners and collaborators, and also to maybe at the public level, we can also share what we try to do, and that might also add some additional opportunity for further collaboration. So yeah, I'll just wanted to add a few more points after Hannes' points. Yeah.
Thank you. Is anybody else on the panel would like to add anything to this point? Okay, so then maybe we move to the next question, which is again, it's for Sun and Dr. Ona. Could you please explain the interconnections of the different pillars under NC4 ADF, and how are they connected to each other, and are they mutually dependent? I think you also see this question in your chat. I don't know who would like to start first. Dr. Ona, you will go? Great, thank you.
Thank you. So that's an excellent question. It's an excellent question because when the NC4 ADF was designed, the overall goal was to mainstream natural capital in Africa development finance. We now realized that in order to target the financial sector, you also need to speak to generating knowledge, because the knowledge in this space, in this subset of green growth, is very limited in Africa. So you need to generate the sufficient knowledge through some of these strategic pillars. In the first one, the intention was to involve the application of natural capital approaches to prioritize infrastructure projects, like the case of Mozambique and Tanzania that I mentioned. Now, while doing that, lessons will be learned, knowledge will be generated, and then we can transform this into building a consensus for natural capital approaches amongst other MDBs, because it's not just about AFDB, but other MDBs as well. And then to pillar 3, because it's a financing activity, we need to also see how this can speak to African sovereign credit ratings. So in order to answer the second question, they are connected in the sense of generating knowledge on natural capital, linking it up to Africa financial landscape, and then using all of this information to build capacity, to raise the capacity for natural capital accounting and assessment in Africa, which is the 4th pillar. So in practical sense, they can work independently, because you can build capacity on a specific issue without necessarily tying it into sovereign credit ratings. However, because of the context of the application of natural capital, the financial industry within Africa, the development financial industry within Africa, it makes more sense to connect them together. So yes, the direct answer to the question is they are interconnected. Even though they can work independently, it's better off implementing them together as one package of one program package. Thank you.
Sun, would you like to add anything?
In fact, Innocent just excellently covered all the points that I wanted to share. But just one last point is that, in fact, we see some kind of like a reinforcing element, is because when we try to identify some useful cases for the training modules that we are currently developing, there are not many cases that we can find from Africa. So once we have more cases generating how natural capital approaches can be applied in infrastructure finance project in Africa that will feed more enriching contents for the training part, and that actually help strengthen the capacity of people in Africa, for example, the policymakers or the practitioners in developed finance institutions, to have more materials and have more enriched material training modules to learn more of it. Then it will generate more cases. So we found there is like a positive feedback loop on that. So I can see that it's really mutually interconnected. Yes.
Thank you. I think those are really important points. Just maybe following up with both of you, the next question is about how to ensure that natural capital stays in focus even after the project ends. Maybe others will talk to their own projects as well, but let's start with you for now.
Thank you. I can give a head start to that as well. So yes, we are very we have some attention towards this particular point, because one of the reasons why projects fail in Africa is because of lack of sustainability. We have several interventions. Some are very short-lived, short time frame, and then it ends, and then there is no technology transfer, or there is no capacity within the African continent to scale it up. And then this kind of programs, it just die a natural death. And the NC4ADF was not envisioned or wasn't designed to fail. It was designed on a sustainable path. And that's why we have that pillar 4 on raising capacity. But within the African Development Bank, what we are trying to do is to also use this program to inform the incoming strategy of the African Natural Resource Management and Investment Center, which will start 2023 to 2027. Now, in this strategy, we try to ensure that valuing natural capital forms a strategic pillar, which is simply NC4ADF. So now we are trying to mainstream it within the bank's policy, such that NC4ADF becomes automatic. And then while we are doing this, we also expect some cascading effect, because it's not just about the African Development Bank, but all the regional member countries of the bank who also draw down inspiration from our policies and strategies and development plans to also begin to mainstream this in their various countries. So it's a perfect sustainability plan, and we hope to also work with a lot of partners and a lot of collaboration to make it even more successful. Thank you.
Again, in a sense, just perfectly covered all the points. I think the top part is we are really lucky that AFDB is very active in this project and initiative, and try to take up and internally in the upcoming strategy as one of the key pillars. That's already one of key success factor that we see as for the sustainability of the initiative. And he also already mentioned the training component. Of course, it will be handed over to African Development Institute under AFDB group. So we also look into that online training component will still there for the AFDB's regional member countries, as well as other development finance institutions in Africa. In addition to that, I would like to mention that AFDB and WWF, they are very lucky that they partner with GGKP, because GGKP is an online partnership that we really do knowledge sharing and management daily basis. So the website is there, and once we store all these knowledge products available online for free, it will somehow always accessible. The knowledge that we share together is always accessible by anyone who is interested, getting to know more about the project and what we have done and what are the case studies and evidences. In addition to that, we are also lucky with partnering with AFDB, because AFDB is in a position to really showcase exemplary cases. What can be done in terms of integrating natural capital in development finance for other African countries, not only countries, but also development finance institutions in Africa. And AFDB also made a very strategic partnership with the African Association of Development Finance Institutions, and we try to involve them into this process. and they have their member institutions like Development Bank of Southern Africa, Equus Bank of Infrastructure and Development Bank, Infrastructure Bank of Zimbabwe, just to mention a few. So once we have all the knowledge and our evidences, we have other partners that we are currently collaborating through AFDB partnership to really share all this knowledge further, and also let them know what we have done, what has been successful, what has been a bit challenging. So we've been also lucky with partnering with AFDB for this project, and further share knowledge with people in the countries. Yeah, over.
Thank you, you both, and I think other panelists also stressed on partnerships. Dr. Basang, would you like to add anything to this point as well? How do you ensure continuity of projects once, or what have you done to ensure that the project is sustainable?
Yeah, I think sustainability is a significant issue in doing this project. I mean, implementing the green growth training, because as we all know that there are lots of stakeholders out there, outside the government, do not actually favor the concept of green growth, because they want to, say, for example, increase their economic capacity to get more profit. And of course, these stakeholders would do many things to combat or to slow down, or even to stop the green growth competence among civil service, particularly in Indonesia. So what we do is to think deeply in designing the training, the green training, the green growth training. So we, together with Green Growth Institute in Indonesia, we try to use a training approach which is very what do you call, attack the mindset of the participants. So technically we called it as a kind of total immersion. So our training program is quite difficult. We not only equip them with the knowledge, but we also equip them with the effectiveness. So the participant then will have a kind of strong motivation, highly strong motivation to implement this. So we believe that with this kind of approach, then we can produce alumni or participants with a strong motivation. And we believe with this kind of participants, alumni, and then the program or the continuity of green growth concept implementation will take place. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next question is to Hennes. What is the biggest challenge for SMEs at the moment to become resource efficient that was identified by IGO? If you could talk to that, please.
Yes, this is a very, very good question, in fact, and it kind of really hits home as to why this is so complicated. The simple fact is that there is rarely a business case for SMEs to become resource efficient. What do I mean by that? There's absolutely no good business reason for them to invest in resource efficiency measures. Why? Because their buyers, those companies they supply to, are not looking for resource efficient suppliers. They're looking for suppliers that produce cheaply and within short time frames. There's no requirement for the SME suppliers to be more energy efficient or water efficient or whatever it is. Now, I'm generalizing, but let's talk about the majority of cases. And that's a big problem because SMEs will, in many cases, actually be interested in sustainability. They're typically smaller companies. They have a stronger connection locally. They might be family owned and honestly could, in many cases, probably want to have a better planet than the large multinationals because of their, let's say, connection to the ground. But there's no business reason for them to do it. They don't have the money to invest in something that is not going to make them more money. And unfortunately, this is a big, big challenge. And what we need to do to address this challenge is work with the buyers, those that are higher up in the food chain from the SMEs, and see how we can develop a stronger relationship between the buyer and the supplier so that the supplier is incentivized through a better contract, more secure contracts, better prices because of the investment they make in resource efficiency. And this should work, and there's every reason for it to work because the buyers are responsible for the environmental footprint of their end product. If you take any big brand name out there, they are responsible for the environmental footprint of their final product, which means it's in their interest to incentivize their suppliers to become more resource efficient. But they don't know how to do it, they don't know how to engage with us, and their procurement department are still disconnected from their sustainability department. So it's a huge challenge, and it's one that we are actually also working on through IGO. I didn't talk about our large industry engagement, but this working with large corporates and work to help them help their supply chain is another big piece of work that we're engaged with as well to overcome this challenge of what is the business case for resource efficiency.
Great, and you gave us where we need to go to learn more. Maybe we can put it in the chat as well. I would like to invite one of our French interpreters if they could come online and translate the question, or maybe it's a comment, but if we could hear that, please, that would be helpful, everyone. I know it's difficult to translate and also type up at the same time, so please. Maybe not?
Yeah, I'm there.
So we'll work it out. But
All right.
French, comment question in the Q&A box. So
No problem. I will translate it.
I do not speak French, so I'm not able to translate it to any of
I can do it.
So
I can do it.
we'll work on it.
Luna, if you want, I can quickly say it.
Okay, great.
I can help it.
Access to green finance for, let's say, female farmers that are in the, let's say, energy transition using solar power in Senegal is, and in particular in the zones that are very agricultural, is a major problem. There are no financial institutions, no suppliers, even when the zones are providing up to 50% of the vegetables in Senegal. So basically, access to green finance is a big issue, even though the female horticulturists are working towards an energy transition. And the reason is that there are just no financial institutions and no suppliers to support this work. What can we do to help them?
And I guess there was that other element of women being particularly impacted, women having access to that finance. So who would like to speak to that?
I can try because that question is coming from one of my
Tu
constituents.
peux essayer parce que
Let me give it a shot. So access to finance for women, particularly, it's access to green finance is a challenge in itself. If you have been following the global discussion around meeting the $100 billion climate finance target, you will see that the challenge is even worse for women, particularly in Africa. So this question is very good in the sense that it's able to also share information. And this is why, this global Green Week is very important because it's also an information sharing platform. So I would like to share that the African Development Bank has an affirmative finance action for women in Africa. It's called AFAWA. It's a program, it's a project that is a Pan-African initiative to bridge about $42 billion financing gap facing women in Africa. And it's actually under implementation as we speak. It adopts a holistic approach through, first of all, targeting what we call an AFAWA finance, an AFAWA technical assistance, and an AFAWA enabling environment. Now, for this particular question, it's tied to AFAWA finance. So I agree that perhaps this information is not out there. And again, women groups, women farmers need to organize themselves into cooperatives to be able to access this kind of financing. But first of all, it starts with the information access. If you can reach out to any of the African Development Bank offices in Senegal, they can provide you more information about this. If you have women farmer groups who are able to organize themselves, who are practicing climate smart agriculture, which can be tied with certain key indicators and metrics that indeed, if the bank finances this kind of transaction, is going to lead to either a low carbon future or is going to increase the adaptation of the agricultural practices in Senegal. I would like to really say that the bank could look into this kind of request. So the facility exists and it's just about organizing yourselves and also trying to ensure that you meet some of the criteria and then you can access them. I will share the link on this AFAWA program. I don't know if maybe it can be shared on the wider platform. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And August, if I could call on you, because you're also working with young people. So maybe if you could talk to how, are they, and I know they also, challenging all of us to take action, to not just talk, to act, and they're taking a lot of action. So if you could just talk a little bit about their plight and your connections in your community with them.
We are working with volunteers on almost all projects. As long as we can ensure the environment of these volunteers, I think our project is sustainable. We have volunteers who have been giving coding trainings to children voluntarily for like 50 years. From our point of view, the sustainability of project depends on the volunteers. And we are trying to volunteers in the business, I can say.
Thank you so much. I'm mindful of time. We have about 6 minutes left from the session. Before I hand over to Invu Leung to make the closing remarks, I just want to ask the panel if they have a final thought for all of us to think about. Maybe Sun will start with you.
While working on the mainstreaming natural capital in the past 3 years, I found that the knowledge is really as a mean and also like tool for integrating nature in development policies and also green growth. The reason is because first, the term natural capital, in many cases, there are lack of understanding and understanding the definition of the term. So we also had to do a lot of knowledge sharing around natural capital, but also in many cases, the tools, approaches, and metrics of natural capital is not widely shared. So like the knowledge sharing has been really key. In addition to that, knowledge transfer in terms of then now people understand what natural capital is, but then how can you use this natural capital approaches for their development policy and green growth planning? So for that side, there's a lot of very technical tools and methods available, and also how to collect data. So that kind of knowledge transfer is really important. And in a way, I'm very honored to work together with AFDB and also for GGKP to contribute the area of the knowledge sharing around natural capital for the green growth and sustainable development in the world. So I would like to just finalize some of the challenges that I found, but at the same time, how we try to overcome through knowledge sharing.
Thank you. Dr. Baseng, would you like to go next? Just a thought.
Yes. In many countries, the role of government officials or public servants is very important because they sometimes they set up public policy and also implement that public policy and evaluate them. In many cases, they also allocate some finance. So it is important for government officers to acquire the knowledge or the concept of green growth training. So with this competence, and then they are able to take action on green growth initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you. Innocent, would you like to just one sentence or?
Yeah, I would just like to encourage all the viewers, particularly those in Africa, that the term natural capital is not very strange. It's something that they are probably already involved in. If you want to look at it from a circular economy point of view, where simple things like waste management or a model that improves resource efficiency, that reduces environmental impact on natural resources, or designing products in more recyclable way, or adopting efficient technologies, all of these are considered green growth indicators. And all you need to do from your little space is to contribute to this global movement. Thank you.
Thank you. August?
Government support is very important for the Turkey's current transformation, but we believe that we can achieve this with volunteering. That's it.
Thank you. And Hannes?
Let's get better at understanding the reality on the ground so that our knowledge and capacity building actually has an impact. Otherwise, we'll just all be talking to each other the whole time and not really having an impact on the ground.
Thank you so much. I'm now going to hand over to my colleague Invu, who's going to close the session. Invu works with me here at GGGI. He leads the GGKP work from the GGGI perspective. So Invu, please make your closing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mona. And thank you to all the speakers. Today, we've heard about the importance of training civil servants. We are reminded that we often think about policies and regulations, but the very people, the civil servants and leaders who implement and continuously improve these policies matter in countries' transformations. We have also heard interesting cases of enabling partnerships, including not just big name companies and intergovernmental organizations, but actually through these partnerships, empowering the youth to build local capacity through Habitat Energy's case. Through Hannes, we have heard of the idea of not leaving behind the 99% of the companies in the world that are not multinationals. It is very uplifting to hear that this IGO solution, as well as the overall initiative of SMEs and their associations around the world, are striving to make both their operations and the very environment they operate in better and more sustainable. Lastly, I do believe that the example of the natural capital with the African Development Bank shared by Sun and Innocent do show us the full evolution of how knowledge is initially generated by the coming together of a few experts and professionals and individuals, and later it is mainstreamed into policymaking as well as development finance, and eventually into regional and global levels. And I do think there is a common theme that are coming up from all of these presentations, one which is that knowledge sharing and capacity building are inherently about scaling impact, quite often through partnerships, because as Hannes has mentioned, if we do not share knowledge and merely acknowledge its existence, then what use is knowledge? We also, another common theme is that these activities and initiatives are also investments for the future. It is true that they consume resources, but we do need knowledge to be shared, capacities to be built, both at the top-down levels and bottom-up levels. And I think that's what all of us here, both in all of the panelists, as well as those in the audience, are working towards. And thank you, everybody, for attending today's session and for contributing to a better and more sustainable future. For those of you interested in the topics of developing Article 6 host country strategy or green building practices and circularity in the case of Africa, please join the next sessions in the GGW beginning in half an hour. Thank you again, and everybody, please do have a wonderful day.